Okay, guys. Today we have a hilarious comedian.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're a funny little guy.
Thank you.
I don't mean like your
I-
size, but
I-
I call everybody a little guy. I just want to.
it.
Let's take it back. Okay, this is Rob Smallwood. Hey guys, I'm Nikki Bon, and this is Whoa Dad with no dad. Normally, I have my absentee dad who just came back into my life, and I teach him how to be a father, but he wants to take a little break from the podcast right now, and I'm fine.
Most people don't realize, like, I'm actually happy with being smaller.
Cool.
I feel like, I don't know why cute feels good to me.
Yeah, cute's kind of nice.
Cute's
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
You know, cute, like, is like, you can introduce me to your girlfriends and they'll be like, oh, he's cute.
He's cute.
And then it's the qualities that I have where they're like, oh, he's hot. You know? So I know that I'm always going to be good looking in any situation because I'm cute, but then I become hot because of the things that I bring to the table.
All right.
So
well,
I'm not worried about being small. I like being small.
However, your parents fucked you up didn't fuck you up that much because that confidence is next. I could learn a thing or two about that confidence right there. Jeez. Okay, so Rob,
Yes.
let's start at the. So guys, I sometimes like know people's stories a little bit, and then I'll bring them on the podcast, knowing their story. But I actually don't know Rob's, and we were at the Comedy Store, and I was like, "Did your parents fuck you up?" And you're like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "Sick. Want to come on my podcast?" So, okay. First question.
Yeah.
Tell us where you're from.
Okay. So I'm from Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
My family would love me to say DC, but
Okay.
I was born in Baltimore and then I grew up in Baltimore.
Okay, cool. And do you want to give your disclaimer? Because I thought that it was very nice.
Yes.
The disclaimer that you gave me when you got here.
I want you and your listeners to understand that I am okay. That the things that I'm about to say to you,
Oh, it's going to get good.
I would not have changed it for the world because it made me exactly who I am today.
Okay.
And that took therapy, that took like really being on my own to figure out like, oh, this all prepared me for where I'm at right now.
All right.
So
Okay, that is.
that's important.
That means something's about to happen. Okay. My first question is, are your parents still together?
No, they are not.
And was it both of them that fucked you up?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. Now, when did they break up?
I will say several times.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I have siblings.
Okay.
I got a brother and a sister. I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it your mom and dad that both fucked you up? You can start.
This is the best way I can ask you how you want this story is. Do you want me to lead up to the part where I attempted to murder my father?
Okay. Yo.
Or do you want the like how it got there?
How it got there. This
Okay.
is so good.
Okay.
I do think I have the better mic than you, and I want you to have the better mic, so
Okay.
I'm going to swap.
Okay.
forever.
Quick way to explain this is
Well,
that
you don't have to be so quick. Like,
well,
I
not
do like a
quick.
40-minute
I guess
episode.
yeah. All right. The overlay is I've had three parents in my lifetime. I have my father, I have my birth mother, and then I have the woman that he married that ended up adopting me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's a lot. There's a lot of layers to it.
Wow. Okay.
So my dad met this woman named Roberta Joanne Yearwood. She is from Trinidad.
Oh, baby, with that sick accent.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
And then, they were young, very young when they had me. They split up. And that, quite frankly, is the normal part of the story. And then my father was working next door to a Blockbuster. And he was a manager of a Radio Shack. And he met this woman named Rhonda Parker, who he ended up having relations with.
Okay.
And she ended up getting pregnant with my brother. They moved in.
Oh, damn.
They got married. She's white. So now there's like this now new layer of he has a kid. They have a kid together. And now she has to learn or try to learn how to have a black son.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
So the gist of my father is that he is. Let me say this: none of my parents, after like years of therapy and books and being around like actual healthy families, none of my parents should have had kids. Like
Okay.
and I said this to my brother and sister. All three of us were mistakes, like monumental mistakes that like shifted their structure of what their life should have been.
Okay.
They weren't prepared. They weren't ready. And I understand like most parents are never ready to have a kid, but you normally have like a sound relationship.
Yeah.
You're normally financially in a place that you can maintain or start a family or have like a career growth. And none of those things were in place for those individuals.
Okay.
My birth mother I'm first generation Trinidadian, so she moved here from Trinidad, but her parents were like well off.
Really?
Yeah. So they came here and they were like, those immigrants that like have like outrageous stories about how they move here and now they make hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're happy and they buy a home and then they raise their kids and then their kids are able to fuck off and fuck up.
Yes.
That's what my mother was. So she came from that.
Damn.
And then I was the product of that fuck up.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. You were a rich girl's sloppiness.
Yes. Yeah. And she was able to like,
Yeah, just do what she wants with her money and
give me essentially give me to my father. She'll say that she went to court, but you read the like documents. This woman was not like mother material.
Yeah.
Key beats.
Yeah, I was like, give me those.
She was arrested for shoplifting with me on my birthday.
Wow, Winona Ryder of her.
Right.
Wow, on your birthday.
On my birthday.
What number birthday?
This was either my 4th or 5th birthday. She was shoplifting. The clerk grabbed her. I freaked out. I bit the clerk.
No.
So he called the cops. They arrested her. My father came and picked me up in a limo with his now white wife. And it was this cool...
In a limo?
In a limo. This was this cool experience that I thought like, I just got in this trouble and they got a limo for me on my birthday because it's Valentine's Day. Yeah. This is so special. No, that limo was just to pick me up and take me to DC to drop me off at my grandmother's.
No.
For, I would say, it felt like a month. Like whatever a month is to a kid that's 4 or 5, that's what it felt like.
Whoa. Why did they get you a limo to do that?
That limo was for them and their date.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I ruined the date by getting in trouble.
You didn't even but you bit. You thought someone was attacking your mom.
I did.
Okay, keep going.
So, that's the basis of like what my childhood would end up being. So then, their lives move on. They moved in together. They moved me in once he got custody of me. Later, I found out he didn't want custody of me in an argument with my adopted mom. Wild.
Wow, that's so mean.
Yeah. So then...
Do you want a tissue?
Oh, no. I'm good.
He's like, this is why I said I'm fine.
Fine. Yeah. So then... my brother's born, they have me, and then they get pregnant with my sister. So now we're living in this 2-bedroom apartment in Reisterstown, Maryland. Shout out to Reisterstown.
What up, Ricers?
And there's 3 of us living in this bedroom. Me and my brother on bunk bed. My brother and I are on bunk beds, and my sister is on like this little Princess Jasmine pink bed.
Oh,
I loved it. I mean, as far as cramped as we were, I loved it because we were all very close.
Yeah, you're a nice.
We were all very close.
Yeah. It's cozy.
Very cozy.
Yeah.
And then my father had an opportunity to get promoted as like a district manager for a job or whatever. And then he started making a little bit more money. We bought a house. We moved out to Carroll County, which is, for those people that don't know this, I keep forgetting you're from Canada. So
I don't know what that
Baltimore, Baltimore is like the city, and then outside of that is the county, and then from the county you go into like rural areas.
Okay.
So you know about the Mason-Dixon line?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Hampstead and Manchester and all that is like literally a mile below the Mason-Dixon line.
Okay.
in your mind, what you've heard about the Mason-Dixon line, you would think that's a very like it's a royal area, but it's also like you would think that it's not as short-sighted as it was. Very white, very racist. KKK still thrives there.
Yeah,
Let's put it that way.
Okay.
My father was a very there's a type of black person that like puts like whiteness on a pedestal.
Okay.
And I was talking last night to somebody about this, but like,
interesting.
That comes from, he grew up in DC, and he grew up in DC at a time where like you didn't see anything but black people.
Okay.
White people were on this side of town, black people were on this side of town, and it was literally chocolate city. That's what DC used to be.
Okay.
So you go around and like all you are is seeing other black people and other black women, and then you grow up and you get a little good looking. You start to get a little money, you get your first car, you start driving around with your friends and you're partying, and you bump into white women. And then some white woman tells you like, oh, you're really handsome or you're cute. And now you're like, oh, I'm better than this. And that's how it shifts, right?
Then you turn into Carlton.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
I'm following.
He took that and he met this white woman, and now he was part of this new society where he was shunning his blackness and perpetuating more whiteness, right? And that was in how he dressed, who he associated with, the things he talked about, how he wanted to raise his kids, i.e. me.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you take all of that, and he's, making sure that I'm in the right schools, or I don't wear my hair a certain way, or I don't wear my clothes a certain way. Oh, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
he's like, don't be black.
Exactly.
Whoa. And your mom isn't around this whole time?
No, my mom is not around. I'm being raised by Rhonda.
Okay. And at the time, do you like Rhonda?
When I was a kid, like a kid, I loved her.
Okay.
Like I adored her.
Yeah.
And then as I started to get older, there were certain things that were starting to take place. And I guess giving you the overall landscape of how we ended up to the attempted murder, this is what plays the part in it. Rhonda was an addict.
What was she addicted to?
The typical white stuff, pills.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
Oxy.
Like be a bit more ballsy.
Yeah. So she would, she'd have her flare-ups. Mm-hmm. She would have moments where if she was out of what she was taking, you would see the switch, right? This is the therapy part that I had to like learn, because when you grow up with an addict, you you tend to want to be a people pleaser. Your happiness comes last in everything, in your relationships, friendships, or whatever. You are quiet, you're reserved, but you are very loving.
Yes.
Right? Because when you're dealing with an addict, there's several things that happen. When they don't have their fix, it's not necessarily about your well-being, it's about you being in the way. That's problem number one.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So when you're a mom, your kids are in the way because you're an addict.
Okay.
You're not a mom because you wanted to be a mom. You're a mom because it was a mistake and it happened, and now you're living with it, and you're like, well, I have to do this or they're going to call social services on me. I
get it.
Right?
Okay.
So every decision she made, every conversation she had with us was based through that or rooted through that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
kind of like a kid at school that's only working hard to get straight A's so they can get the bike that their parents is offering.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like that. It was like, I think it was like Chris Rock that made the joke of, dads that are out there that say like, I take care of my kids. You're supposed to.
Yes.
That is,
yes.
In a weird way, what she was I'm taking care of my kids, and it's like,
that's your
job. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. So yeah, she had a lot of addict behavior, which if you're asking me directly how that fucked me up, it's my relationships with people, my relationships with women, most of all, because, you had my birth mom that like didn't really want anything to do with me. And then you had like my replacement mom that was an addict that was, you get what I'm saying? So it just all kind of piled on.
Yeah.
So I had to learn, and I learned this recently. This isn't like something I picked up like 6 years ago. I learned this maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, what my relationships were and why they were that way, I was with women that like hated me. Like,
yeah,
didn't feel good all the time. And I felt like if I was struggling or if like I wasn't happy in my relationship, then, I was in love. That's love.
yes,
right?
Yeah, because you're still attaining them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So when someone like would say like, oh, you don't meet my needs or so, I would like take that and be like, oh, what else can I do?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're going to have to stop going out and doing comedy. You're going to have to stop. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that is what comes from dealing with like an addict, because like their wants and desires aren't discerned from what needs are, right? Yes. What you need is water, food, and shelter and clothes, right? What you want is space and time and the ability to say whatever you want without consequences.
Yeah.
All of those shifted into needs. So if she said something that was mean, I had to accept it.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, if I don't want her to say something mean, then I have to keep my mouth shut.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
yes.
That's in the realms of like what fucked me up. That's the
you
big. You
never got to speak your thoughts, your voice, like anything. You had to live in her world and be quiet.
So, and then when you have, in black families, you don't talk about what's going inside the home. You don't. You keep your mouth shut until spoken to. So all those things played a really big part. So you had like kind of like the perfect concoction of what statistics say would be a serial killer.
Oh.
So that was. So after the very first split between my parents, which was very temporary, my father choked her and the cops got called. He went to, it's not jail, but a holding tank. Okay. And then he was gone for a month, and he was actually staying with her family. And they were like taking him to church. It was a whole rehabilitation thing. It's weird.
Okay. And how old were you?
I was 13 the first time this happened.
Ooh, that's a fucking rough age.
Yes. I was in middle school. I remember.
It's the worst age.
I remember when it happened, because when the cops get called and they have kids inside the home, inside Maryland, I don't know if this is anywhere else, all of that information goes to the school. Okay. Because they're starting to monitor like how the kids are behaving. Yeah. And then that's how like CPS gets involved. Yeah. So I had to start going to in-school counseling.
Oh man, which is so embarrassing, I bet.
It's embarrassing, but no one knows what it is. Oh, right? Okay. Like it was like how they set it up is you'd have class, and then you'd have this break, but no one knows what your class schedule is. Mm-hmm. No one's going to be like, well, why weren't you in this class? It's just school. Yeah. So to me, and it's very smart. To me, it was just like another course, but it was just one-on-one with someone.
Yes. Okay. Right? I see. Yeah. And before we move on, were you there when he choked her? Mm-hmm. And who called the cops?
It was her.
Okay.
It was her.
Were you scared when it was happening, or were you like, get that bitch?
It was one of those things of like, that was my first round of violence with inside the home. Okay. As far as like between them. Yeah. I was getting beat all the time.
You were.
Oh. I guess I skipped over the important parts.
Yeah, come on.
So you have a mom that's an addict, and then you have a father that's abusive. I have a scar on the back of my neck. You can feel free to feel if you like. That's from a belt buckle. Whoa. I got in trouble in school, and I'll never forget this. I got in trouble for school.
How old?
I think this was 11 or 12. 11 or 12 is when the beating started. Okay. And I can't remember if I was like talking or something. It was something minor. Mm-hmm. And he comes home. He slides open the back patio door. Doesn't talk to anybody. Goes in the back. He's like, my father used to like have to work himself up to beat me.
Fuck off.
So he's back there like pumping himself up.
No.
And then he comes out with this belt in his hand. He's like, I heard you had a lot to say in school today about talking or whatever. And I was like, I was just talking to my friends. And he pulls me out of the chair, and he is going to town. And this was the first time I've gotten beatings before, but this was the first time that I was like, oh, this is something extra is happening here.
Yeah.
Because my mother grabbed him and she was like, this is like, I can't sit here for this. This is enough. You have to stop. And I had like welts on my back, but I remember just feeling my neck. And like there was like blood on my neck and I had a scrape or whatever. And I remember that night, like laying in my bed, like I used to lay on my back as a kid. And I remember having to lay on my side that night and waking up and there was like a stain on the pillow. Wore a turtleneck that day, the next day to school. It was very quiet for the next, I want to say a couple of months in school.
Wow.
So then there was like,
because you're like, I don't ever want that to happen again.
So then they put me in, they went to put me in like, I guess it's called special education courses. Yeah. Because I was quiet. Yeah. I didn't interact. I didn't read. I was just like, I'm
not moving. I'm a statue. I don't want to do anything
exactly.
wrong.
Because that's all I could think about. Yeah. Art was my only outlet. That was just something that I was always good at. Mm-hmm. So that was the only time that I was like active in doing things in school. And then later on, I started playing sports, and that goes into a whole nother thing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Did he, when that happened later on, did he apologize, or was he just like cold to you, or what was the transition?
So, how situations like that would happen, and then it would just
be like, eat your peas.
Yeah.
Wow. Fuck. Okay. Yeah, so that was when you were 12. That was 11, 12, and then now 13 is where now you see him choke her.
Yes.
Okay. And
I guess that's 14 because 13 is when I got beat on the football field, and the coach.
Oh my God.
So the next big beating, the next big one that like someone else had to intervene.
Whoa.
I was playing 11, 13 football, middle school, 8th grade. I was big as a kid, like for my age. Amongst other kids, I was like the tallest. I was more fit. Like it was,
You're a football.
I was a football kid.
Yeah.
And there was like other fathers out there, other black fathers that would like kind of like pick on my dad about like how my jersey was always clean or something like that. I was more of an offensive kid than I was a defensive kid until this day. We do these things called Oklahomas. So it's basically when you take one kid, you put a ball in their hand, you put the other kid on the other side and you tackle. Like one has to tackle and one has to run through the other. It's a very violent part of football.
Okay.
But it's fun. Like for us kids, it's fun.
Yeah.
Until you had to go against Tyrell. And I was the big kid until Tyrell came around. And Tyrell was like the big kid. Tyrell was huge.
I feel like I'm thinking of a Disney movie, and you're like Aladdin, and then like someone bigger comes in, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, he was big.
Okay.
And I remember kids used to just dive out of the way, like no one would want to get hit by Tyrell. Yeah. And it was my turn, and I did what everybody else did. I dove out of the way.
Yeah.
The coach is like yelling, and they're like, it's a joke. Like at this point, like everybody on the team knows. Yeah. The coaches know. They're like, that is a big fucking kid.
Yeah. That's really funny.
Dad pushes through. There's a circle or whatever, and they're all lined up. My dad pushes through the crowd of kids and the coaches, grabs me by my face banks and drives me off.
No.
And all the coaches are like, they want to say something, but this is back in the day where like you just
stand back.
You just stand back.
Yeah.
And he is screaming in my face, and he's punching me in my chest, and he's like, if you don't hit this kid, I'm going to hit you, and you know what's going to happen. And he takes my helmet off, and he's slapping me around, and before you know it, I'm 11, 13, it's 9/11. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It's 9/11, and the 9/11 football team, that coach has been watching like my father like ream me out and be like the overbearing, I wasn't good at sports, you're going to be good at sports.
Yeah.
And he had enough. And I don't know why that day was particular to him to like step up and say something, but he like snapped, threw down his clipboard, took off his whistle. Like as I'm getting hit, I'm watching this grown man about to beat the shit out of my dad.
Whoa.
And this was the moment that like changed everything for me. This coach comes up, puts his hat backwards, fucking lays my dad out.
Damn.
My dad gets up, they start fighting, and he's like, I've watched you beat on this kid, and I'm fucking sick of it. If you want to hit somebody, hit me. That's a very important statement, because the story I tell you at the end is, you'll get it. Okay. And it took his coaches, the other kids, the other coaches, my kids, and the other dads, and me just sitting there to rip them apart. My father could no longer come to my little league practices anymore.
Wow.
And when he was at the games, he had to stay on the hill.
Damn.
Yeah. So my grandfather started taking me and coming to my games.
That's a cool ass fucking coach.
Yes. That moment changed everything for me.
How come?
Because then when I was in middle school, bullying, that's when bullying was a thing. And I never got bullied because I got bullied when I was younger, and then when I got into middle school and was playing football and started fighting back, no one fucked with me anymore. Yeah.
Because you're also taking out the anger that you have at home, or you can't have a voice at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So bullying was I hated it. It really upset me when I saw other kids get picked on and pushed in lockers and stuff like that. So I started fighting a lot. I started fighting other kids, defending the little kid, because
I like that though.
That was I watched that man do that.
Yeah.
So once all that happened, middle school ends. I'm now in high school. Mm-hmm. I got selected to go to a private school in the city because it was a farming school for college talent.
Okay.
It's called Mount St. Joe, and I got kicked out for fighting.
Oh, damn. Yeah. But it's literally what you grew up with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got kicked out for fighting and ended up having to go to North Carroll, which is now in Hampstead, Maryland, that whole outside of the, next to the Mason-Dixon line, that whole place.
Okay.
So this is the first time I'm in a situation where I'm being told that my race is less than. I'm in a biracial household.
Interesting.
I got a white mom. I got a black dad.
Yeah.
I'm in Rice Hashanah is a melting pot of families, Mexican, black, white, whatever.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that I was in a space where someone would see me and would call me the N-word or tell me I wasn't allowed to come in some space or whatever. It's the very first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. Jesus Christ. Okay. And I remember this whole transition from 8th grade into high school. I wanted to grow my hair out. And this is why I was saying that my father had chose whiteness or whatever. He didn't want that. He was people are going to say something if you have your hair that way. And I had went through a transformation in middle school where I was oh, I can start dictating what I want my life to be.
Yeah, I don't have to listen to this fuckface.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was I want it anyway. And I had already had the young half of my life, I was in a black family. So there's no way he was going to tell me no.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to go to my aunt's. She's going to do it. My grandmother's going to do it, whatever. So yeah, I started having my hair braided, and then I wanted to get locks. I remember this very specifically. And he was so worried about me having it. And at this point, he had gone through the whole rehabilitation thing where he was no longer hitting my mother or beating me as much. But I remember my aunt just test braiding my hair to see what it looked like with long hair. And I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
And this was the other big beating. He's picking me up from DC and we're driving back, and he's now I'm letting you know people are going to say something about your hair. And he's it doesn't matter what they think. And I'm thinking that's the turn of it. He's going to let me be me and I'll just be fine. So I went to school, and yeah, all the white kids had something to say about my hair.
Yeah. Fucking idiots.
Right? And to me, I didn't care.
Yeah.
These were I knew where I had came from. I knew that this town was such a small white town that this was only going to be a young experience of my life, and I could go on and move on with my life.
Yeah.
And it'd be fine.
You're if I was in Trinidad, this would be sick as fuck.
Exactly.
And I'm going to stick to who I am.
Right.
And what my roots are. Yeah.
So I come home and it's like we started doing like family dinners or whatnot. And my mother asked me, she goes, did anybody say anything about your hair? And I was like, yeah. And I said it just like that. And I was fine. Yeah. I wasn't upset. I wasn't crying. I wasn't like, oh, they made fun of me. I was like, yeah, it said stuff about my hair. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Father reaches across the table and fucking grabs me by my shirt and slams me up against the wall.
No.
And he's like, I told you they were going to say something about your hair. Why are you upset about it? Why did you even, if you don't want people saying anything, why did you even grow your hair? I was like, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I don't understand what this is. Why are you talking back? And
oh my God.
So but
that was him projecting, being embarrassed that people said something about your hair.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is so as I'm getting older and I'm seeing all this stuff, I will say, like, as a kid, I was very astute to understand, like, first adult problems and then understanding, like, what was actually happening versus turning it on myself and being like, oh, something's wrong with me, or I keep fucking up.
Good
blah,
for
blah,
you.
blah.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from the coach that stuck up for me. That came from, my adopted mom's mom. Just pointing out little things. I would hear little comments like, Robert, one day you're going to hit him and he's going to fight back. Small little things like that were just constantly being reinforced. And slowly I didn't realize it, but it was giving me confidence.
Yeah.
And I had there was one Christmas I had asked for a gold cross or a silver cross. I wanted, because platinum and silver was big back then. Yeah. But he wanted me to have gold because he wanted me to have gold. And he got me a gold cross, and I accepted it because I was a very grateful kid. I had an understanding of, we went from a 2-bedroom apartment to a 5-bedroom house. Yeah. You understand? Yes. My friends were able to come over and sleep in the basement. Yeah. We were able to stay up all night and play. I was able to live that life, and I was able to see the transition. Yeah. So there was these little tidbits that were getting poured into me slowly. You had the coach, you had my grandmother, or my mom's mom, who was slowly teaching me it's okay to have separate thoughts. It's okay to speak your mind. Yeah. You pick and you choose. And one of those things was this golden chain that I had gotten for Christmas. It's okay to say you don't like the gift. Yeah. It's okay to say this isn't what you asked for. Yeah. It's one thing to get something and you didn't ask for it, and then you get it and you're grateful for it. Yeah. It's another thing to ask for something specifically when someone asks you. Yeah. And then they get you a variation of it because that's what they wanted for you versus what you wanted. Mm-hmm. And that's what she was teaching me. So it was that, and then it was the comment of, one day you're going to underestimate him, because right now is the peak of his strength. Yeah. He's young. How old are you? He's 18? Fast. I was now 15 I was 14, 15 when this conversation happened. And I remember she was sitting in the back of the car and she was like, you need to watch out. And he was like, the day Rob raises his hand to me will be the last day he lives on earth. Whoa. And I remember in my mind, we'll see, motherfucker. I remember. Wow. And I remember her giving me the look and watching my face change. Because at that point, I was a competitor. Yeah. I was no longer a little insecure boy. I was a competitor. I was a all-American football player. I was a track athlete. I had already accomplished these things. Yeah. So to hear that was the shift. I remember that being the final thing. So this comes the big day. I feel like this is the day that changed everything. This was now my parents' second split. They had split up the first time. This is their second one, and then there was the third one, which was their final. This was right around when the first crash happened in America. So a lot of people that got mortgages they got duped. Yeah. Where they got the lower percentage, and then the banks came back and were like, oh, we're reaching hard times.
Right.
So now we're gonna, So my father was going to have to file bankruptcy, and we were going to lose the house and everything. This is all backstory stuff that I didn't know. And my mother, being the addict that she was not a cooker.
Okay.
She just wasn't. She was into doing drugs and hanging out with her friends and smoking cigarettes.
Okay.
And she had a friend over. Kids were over. She wasn't going to cook. She ordered us a pizza. Father comes home and he sees the pizza on the table and flips out. And I'm downstairs like playing video games or something like that. And he's like, why would you order this pizza? Blah, blah, blah. He's doing this in front of company, which he's never done before. And so her friend leaves with her son or whatever. My brother and sister are outside playing. And I remember him shouting this. He's yelling at them to get inside. This is a very like a weird approach to have one argument with one person on spending habits. Yeah. And it's not even a school night. And he's yelling at them to get inside. My sister comes in immediately. Now my brother, he's lackadaisical. He's a kid. He's a kid being a kid. And he's like, any kid that doesn't listen to me isn't a kid of mine.
Whoa. Okay.
And there was this whole conspiracy about like how my brother wasn't really my brother, that she had an affair with somebody else. And because my brother had red hair, but my father has red hair when it was died. And he would die. It was a whole thing. Okay. Anyway. So my brother finally comes inside, and they're upstairs, and I go upstairs in my room to turn my music up, and I shut the door because I'm feeling, there's a shift that happens when you're raised in this environment where you go from being afraid to now you're angry.
Yes.
Because you're angry that you're afraid still. Like that happens with anybody. It's the whole Star Wars adage. It's just like fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Mm-hmm. That was my life in a nutshell. So my brother is showering, my sister is in the shower or bathing, one of the two. And they're down the stairs and they're fighting. And in a big house there's vents, and the vents carry sound, so my head's next to the sound, and he's like screaming in her face. And she's like, I don't understand why you're getting so angry. I'm sorry. She's like, can you please back up? And he's like, no, I'm not going to back up. And they're going at it. And I go downstairs, and I'm fucking ready.
Whoa.
And I'm like, if you guys got to fight, take it outside. And if you're going to hit somebody, hit me.
Whoa. Wait, the coach said.
And he was like, get out of my house. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. If you guys are going to do this, take it outside. Yeah. So everybody can see you.
Oh, damn.
And he pushed me, and he hit me with a 2-piece. And he had this ring on. And
what's a 2-piece?
Like a 1-2. Like
oh.
Sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't beat.
And I blacked out. Whoa. I saw the blood in my mouth and the scrape on my arm. And
like you blacked out in anger. You didn't go to the okay.
And I put him through the kitchen wall.
Whoa.
Like I was that, like all of this had built up over years.
Yes.
And I wasn't throwing punches. Like he was like throwing punches to like get me to like sit down or like whatever. And I snapped, and I had like moved the dining room table out of the way and moved the chairs out of the way. And I fucking took my hands and put it around his throat, and with all my weight and speed and energy charged at him. And there was the dining room into the kitchen. There was a wall here.
Okay, yeah.
And I shoved him right through it.
Whoa.
So there was like whole, head, arms, everything. There was like a little concaved area.
Like in Looney Tunes.
You could see through. I was like that angry. So I'm looking up at him because he's like kind of off, like he's not off the ground, but like he's struggling.
Yeah, like in Superman.
And
he's only seeing children's shows. Ken.
He's like, Rob, you got to let me go. And I was like, you did this to me.
Whoa.